This week on Vaticano, we bring you to several different sacred music concerts, and thanks to great musicians and pontiffs, we'll travel to the roots of liturgical music, the direct way to communicate with God. Thanks for being with us. Vaticano begins now.
I thank those who combine music and prayer in harmonious praise of God and His works. They help us glorify the Creator and Redeemer of the world, which is the marvelous work of His hands.
With these words, Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI gave thanks for the concert given on the occasion of his 80th birthday on April the 16th, 2007. All through his pontificate, Benedict XVI underlined the importance of music as the truly universal language of beauty, capable of uniting men of goodwill the world over, and prompting all to turn their gaze heavenward and open their hearts to the absolute goodness and beauty emanating from God the Father. Mozart, Brahms, Rossini, Beethoven, Palestrina. These were just some of the protagonists of the 15th edition of the Music Festival this November. For 4 days, the patriarchal basilicas of the Eternal City welcomed musicians from all corners of the world, guided by a common objective, to offer the public a direct link between them and the divine through music. Behind the scenes of this festival has been, for more than 14 years, the non-profit foundation Pro Musica e Arte Sacra. With their motto, Art Saves Art, this institution is actively engaged in the conservation, restoration, and maintenance of sacred art all over the world. And this is made possible by the many disinterested contributions of its benefactors. But before we continue talking about this music festival, we need to understand what sacred music is and where its roots lie. To find out, we speak of one of the members of the directive committee of this foundation, Monsignor Pablo Colino, Emeritus Maestro of the Chapel Choir of St. Peter's Basilica. Before getting down to our conversation, Monsignor Colino wanted to underline the difference between sacred and liturgical music.
Not all
sacred music or music inspired by sacred themes is liturgical. Liturgical music is connected with the rituals of the universal cult. In saying this, I actually find myself questioning whether all music that we think nowadays appropriate for the liturgy is truly liturgical music. And well, the music of the liturgy is set on the Church's teachings. It cannot be invented by, say, using a word that we don't really like, those at the lowest levels. It comes straight from the head, the Church, which holds the responsibility to educate us and raise us to salvation. More generally speaking, sacred music is any music that is inspired by the sacred. And it can be either sacred concert music or music of the liturgy. Sacred music is the genre, and the word of the liturgy is the difference. Liturgical music is something more than sacred music.
La palabra litúrgica es la diferencia. O sea, la música para la liturgia es algo más que música sagrada.
Ever since his years in the seminary and then all through his life as a priest and musician, Monsignor Colino candidly says he's been following in the footsteps of one pope in particular, the pope known as the Pope of Sacred Music, St. Pius X.
Este ha sido el Papa mi inspirador, mi inspiración. Y yo creo que
he has been my inspiration. I believe that everything that all the popes after him ever said is based on what he said. He was the Patriarch of Venice and then came to Rome. We're talking about the early 1900s. In 1903, he wrote the Magna Carta on sacred music.
Se podría llamar la Carta Magna sobre la música sagrada. que él había establecido como 3 principios que debía tener.
And he has established the 3 principles that sacred music must have to be music of the liturgy. Before dwelling on these qualities, he said in broad terms, sacred music was created in order to praise God directly, not only indirectly as some say. No, to praise God directly and to edify the faithful. That is to say, their sanctification, education, and enlightenment, all aimed at salvation, not any enlightenment of some other kind.
La culturización, pero en vías a la salvación, no una culturización cualquiera.
Following the teachings of St. Pius X, Monsignor Colino states that sacred music for the liturgy, in any historical moment and in any cultural context, must necessarily bring together 3 qualities.
Las 3 cualidades que decía San Pío X, que decía uno era, tenía que tener la música.
Well, so these 3 qualities that sacred music has to be used in liturgy. Firstly, this music has to stem from sanctity. It must be sound in the moral sense of the term. Secondly, it has to be good in its strictly musical form. That is to say, it has to be created by one who has studied and knows music, and knows what folk music is, or Gregorian music, polyphony, contemporary music. It has to be created by someone who has been trained in all of this. Sacred music has to be music of good quality, not a monotonous chant, created by someone who doesn't know what a sentence is, a tone, the dominant tone, who doesn't know what breathing means, or a riff, and above all, ignores the rules of accent and intonation. Accent gives life to words. And if you want to put something in music, you have to keep this aspect in mind, because the word accent means ad cantus, which in turn means what makes it possible for a word to be sung. And well, this is the second quality of sacred music for the liturgy, that it is good music, that is, academic music, done by someone who is a professional.
And
to conclude, last but not least, the other very important third quality, and I've always liked the fact that a pontiff has put this down in writing, the universality of sacred music.
And these 3 qualities precisely were the indisputable protagonists of this year's Festival of Sacred Music, which occurred at the same time as the closing of the Holy Jubilee year dedicated to mercy. To celebrate this extraordinary moment in the life of the Church, Hans Albert Corzial, president of the Foundation, together with honorary president Cardinal Angelo Comastri, decided to dedicate the concerts to a very special ambassador.
This year we've dedicated the festival to Mother Teresa of Calcutta because she's the saint of this year of mercy. Our honorary president, Cardinal Angelo Comastri, wanted this. And so this year the festival is dedicated to her, and for this reason we have chosen some very beautiful pieces.
In a few moments we'll be back with more on Vaticano. More in Vaticano begins now.
This year we've dedicated the festival to Mother Teresa of Calcutta because she's the saint of this year of mercy. Our honorary president, Cardinal Angelo Comastri, wanted this. And so this year the festival is dedicated to her, and for this reason we have chosen some very beautiful pieces.
Io sono stato per 10 anni con Madre Teresa di Calcutta.
I was with Mother Teresa for 10 years, as I had the great honor of organizing some of her journeys for her. So I'm very happy to be able to dedicate this festival to her. We want to open people's hearts to God through sacred music. This is our mission. To get closer to God through the music of great composers such as Mozart, Beethoven and others.
La musica di Mozart, di Beethoven, di altri grandi compositori.
Mercy was the thread that ran through each work performed, each movement, each note, each pause. A good example of this was the concert dedicated to the victims of the earthquakes that devastated central Italy and other areas of the world. In the Baroque Basilica of St. Ignatius of Loyola at Campus Martius, conducted by Leo Kramer, the choir and State Symphony Orchestra of Kazan, with the Palatina Classic Vocal Ensemble and the Philharmonic Choir, Andersar, performed Mozart's Requiem in honor of the victims.
Mozart's Requiem is a lofty expression of faith that is well acquainted with the tragedy of human existence and is not silent about its dramatic aspects. It is thus an expression of a truly Christian faith, aware that the whole of human life is illumined by God's love.
For Leo Kramer, music as a universal language represents a very effective weapon for communicating values and for creating a spirit of communion among people.
This language is an unicat in the world. Only this language gets us in the heart and in the spirit at the same time. And when we listen such music, we go out with another feeling than when we come in. We are other people. Yeah? Music is like a medicine. Yeah? When you have an illness, yeah? and you need some medicine, and then, oh yeah, it's better now. Music is the same. Yeah? When we get this music in our spirit, our heart, our feeling, our communication together, from musician to the public, from the public to the musician, we go out on this cathedral with an other personality than when we come in.
La musica fa parte di tutte le culture e potremmo dire accompagna ogni esperienza umana.
Music is part of all cultures and, if you will, goes hand in hand with every human experience, from pain to pleasure, from hate to love, from sadness to glory, from death to life. We can see how over the centuries music has been used in order to give shape to what one cannot express in words, things that are too difficult to communicate for their intrinsic complexity. For this reason, it is not by chance that all civilizations have invested music with a lot of importance and value in all its various forms and expressions. Great music soothes the spirit, arouses deep feelings, and invites us quite naturally to lift our hearts and minds to God in all the situations, be they happy or sad, of our human existence. Music can turn into prayer.
Our concert this morning is the best example. We have German musicians, we have Russian choir and orchestra. We have inside the Russian, they come Russian Orthodox people, yeah, Christian. There are, you know, Kazan. There are a lot of Muslim people, yeah. And we play Mozart, yeah? And of course the choir alone, this wonderful a cappella from Russian Orthodox culture, yeah? And the public international, yeah? From America to Europe, to Japan, and so on. This is the best medicine for the world, the music. Yeah? This language, it comes not from the musician, it comes from God, for us all together. Yeah? And we are musicians. We can say every time, thank you very much for this language, yeah? From spirit, from heart, yeah? And the people, public also.
Among the soloists, we were able to speak with Mexican tenor Oscar de la Torre. For him, sacred music represents a privileged way of connecting with God.
Cuando se le canta a Dios,
When you're singing for God, everything takes on a lot more meaning. Speaking of His Word, praising Him, saying that God is powerful, that God is wonderful, proclaiming His sanctity, that He's the King, and singing, "Blessed is He who comes in the name of the Lord," singing for God. Well, when we find ourselves inside this connection, people say, "I don't know, I felt something special. It wasn't only listening to a beautiful voice, or it wasn't only the incredibly good orchestra. There was something else." When we are truly in contact with God, we can feel we are carrying people to this dimension. It's an honor for me, coming here to Rome and sing this marvelous work, Mozart's Requiem, is for me all very special.
es llevar como a esa dimensión a la gente.
Thanks for watching. Stick around for more on Vaticano. Welcome back. You're watching Vaticano. This edition of the festival saw not only musicians from all over the world, but also of all ages. One of the most awaited musical ensembles was the Vienna Boys Choir, whose first concert was in the Papal Basilica of St. Mary Major. Directed by the young maestro Luis de Godoy and accompanied by pianist Gerald Wirth, they delighted the audience with a program of stylistically extraordinary variety.
Well, today's program we wanted to show a very rich variety of music in this part of the repertoire, in the sacred music. So you have sacred music for boys choir or for high voices, and then you have already a reduced repertoire for this. But of course, when we talk about sacred music, this is the biggest repertoire we have. And therefore we just chose everything from Baroque, from Renaissance to contemporary music, and of course some romantic music, and many composers from Vienna are connected to Austria.
For Luis de Godoy, classical music is an artistic expression that is constantly reborn, but which, like every human reality, is steeped in tradition, and it's in this tradition that music finds its roots as the universal language going beyond time and space.
Classical music is just a way, it's a way of making art and making music, and there are still a lot of people making new compositions. We heard today one composition by a composer who was on stage And this is actually not really true when one thinks that classical music is just integrated to ancient or old things. It's totally in contact and integrated to history and to tradition, of course, but that's how everything in life is. We are a result of history and of culture, and so is classical music, so it is music for everyone.
Time and space exist as the tangible basis upon which melody rests, and thanks to which the perception of melody itself can change.
Yeah, when we talk about music and space, it's also, especially in such an acoustic as this one of this church, of this big church, it's also a matter of time and space and time. So when we have the choir singing, not only in the normal disposition, but also in other places and in different groups, you have to manage that they are all together, or that the sound which comes to the audience comes at the same time. And therefore it's very important that they don't sing all at the same time, they have to adjust it. And this is of course a way of making music even more interesting. I mean, this is an art which just can exist when there's air and there's the possibility of vibration. So if you use the time and the space that you have in other manners, you just make this richer. And this is not an idea of myself, this is actually a practice from old composers as well. They already composed thinking about double choirs and situations like this.
Veritable art patrons of our time, the members of the Pro Musica e Arte Sacra Foundation look to Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI's legacy as an inspiration, dedicating their lives to the conservation of beauty, the privileged path leading us to God.
La música hay que estudiarla más porque
We need to study music more, because music is not only an amusing thing. Music is another language, an extra language. Nowadays, all of us would like to speak some foreign language, and especially the kids in schools are required to study 2 foreign languages, etc. But why don't they also consider the teaching of music as an extra language?
Pero lo que decía Debussy, Claude Debussy, el músico francés.
I'm always reminded of what Debussy used to say. He was a French musician in 1915. He always used to say, music is a language that starts where words stop. I can tell you something with words and still have to say more. There are so many things you can't say with words, or when words are not enough, and with music it's the only way to say them.
O las palabras son que quedan, pero con la música mucho más.
I never thought about God speaking, but once you ask me this, I'm pretty sure he would sing instead of talk. I think the human voice was made by God as everything else, and once we got this idea of singing with our voices, we just got an amazing possibility of expressing ourselves with something that is not only the words, but is also our own feelings, actually. So you can describe your feelings by talking about them, and you can also just present them through singing. And if God speaks, then he sings as well.
C'è qui nascosta una legge universale dell'espressione artistica
Here is concealed a universal law of artistic expression, the ability to communicate beauty, which is also goodness and truth, by a tangible means, a painting, a piece of music, a sculpture, a written text, a dance, etc. Indeed, it is the same law that God followed to communicate himself and his love to us. He became incarnate in our human flesh and realized the greatest masterpiece of all creation, the one mediator between God and men, the man Jesus Christ.
L'unico mediatore tra Dio e gli uomini, l'uomo Cristo Gesù.